Hi screen printers. Today we're on the Riley 250 and we're going to be talking about printing black ink with the FN Black. I will be using EcoFrame with the 157 thin thread mesh just to show how clean and smooth the ink prints. This ink will easily print through a 305 mesh. And so we're going to talk about ink bridging the garment for wash durability and trapping fibers, and then we're going to talk about printing for a soft hand feel, which is two different approaches. I'll be using a Port & Company Essentials tee, which is a standard boxy t-shirt, and I'll also be printing on one of our All Made Fairly White to show how the ink is going to behave differently across these different fabrics, and also how these fabrics themselves are actually knit differently to give a different need for what your black ink is going to do. So without further ado, let's pull a squeegee. So one of the things we really want to pay attention to is the amount of pressure that we're going to use when we actually pull the squeegee. As we know, thin thread with the thinner thread diameter and the larger hole openings allows all ink to pass through it very easily, so you don't have to use a whole lot of pressure. When it comes to bridging the garment with your ink deposit, not needing to use too much pressure to get the ink to clear allows that ink to then stay on top of the fabric because we're not pushing down so hard. So I'm going to do a flood, and then we're going to take a look at the underside of the screen, and we're going to show, just like we did in our white ink video, how to print with FN White, that it's important to fill your stencil so that when you come back and you actually have downforce with your squeegee, again, we're using less pressure to get the ink to clear the screen, but because we already have ink in our stencil, that ink falls out, goes onto the garment much easier than if we didn't flood the screen. So for me, I'm not going to use too much pressure. Can't really see the squeegee bend too much, and it's not going to. I'm using a 70 durometer blade, and I'm just going to do one pass, and we're going to take a look at it. And that's what it looks like with a single pass. We won't be able to really tell how well the ink has bridged the fibers until we actually pull it off and we can take a look at it and give it a little tug, a little stretch. But that's a single pass, and that's how easy it is to print with the thin thread. Flooded it, printed it, very first print. So you can see, it looks to me like we've almost got a perfect one pass laydown. If I wanted to get a little bit more ink down, I might go with a 60, 90, 60 durometer, which has a slightly softer edge, and as a result can kind of hydroplane round, that edge rounds a little bit as it comes down and lays down a little bit more ink on top. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to take this, I'm going to run it through the dryer, and I'm going to go and print on a Fairly White. Same technique, not going to change anything. I'm going to try not to change anything, and then we can compare them at the end. Then once we're done with that, I have one little trick to show you, again using a smoothing screen, and that might make a difference on some of your prints. So I'm going to run this through the dryer. Again, lift off the shirt from the bottom, run this through. So again, do a flood. And the FN Black is very soft black. It's very pliable, easy to move around. It's not like our lava black, which is thicker bodied. And because of that thicker bodied, it's a lot easier to lay down a thicker deposit. But the hand on it at the end is going to have greater rigidity than the FN Black is. So again, I did my flood, stencil was filled. There we go. And it looks very similar to what we did with the other one on the Port & Company shirt. So I'm going to take this, run it through, and I'll bring them back and we'll do a quick comparison side by side. It's difficult to tell without holding this shirt up and looking at it through the light. But both of these prints, the black has fully bridged the fibers on the garment. So they're actually on top. You can see, maybe you can't see, but you can feel that the ring spun, the all made, the tri-blend has a better hand feel than the cotton shirt. But the ink layer on both is the same, so you're gonna get the same ink durability out of them. If I wanted to make this even softer, that's where the smoothing screen comes in. And I'll do that next. But what we really want to talk about here is the end result of what you want out of a black ink deposit really depends on, is this a fashion soft feel of ink, or is this a long-term durable, no white fibers coming loose underneath the black to make it look slightly charcoal in the end result, in the long term. So that is what you need to ask yourself. What is it that your customer needs, or what is it that you want to produce for a standard black? So if I was to print this black through a 305 mesh, I'm going to get, as with most inks, a very, very soft feel as a result of it, but I'm not going to bridge the fibers. I'm not going to have that ink sitting up on top covering the fibers, so it's not going to wash as well. Very soft print, but I'm going to have fibers come loose from the shirt, and that color of the shirt is going to influence the color of the black. Being on white, it'll come through and look a little bit charcoal. So let's go ahead and grab another fairly white shirt. Again, fairly white meaning with the organic cotton in here. And we're going to take a look at what it's going to do underneath the smoothing screen. All right, so I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. Simple flood, pre-fill the stencil, pull the squeegee, good coverage. I'm going to flash, and black is going to heat up really, really quickly. Oh. Got to make sure the flash is covering the design. And come on out. Soft and pliable. So basically what I've done here is just like with the white ink that we did where we used a smoothing screen to tap down fibers, I'm doing the same thing here. I'm tapping down the fibers by getting the ink warm into a gelled and pliable state. And then after that, I am pressing those fibers in. And because the ink is malleable, I'm actually pressing the ink a little thinner and into the garment just a little bit. It's a byproduct of all that. And in this case, it's okay. But now it's much, much smoother. You can see that there's no fibers sticking out on top. You can see it's a little bit glossy, kind of like it's been hit with a heat press, heat transfer vinyl. Some customers won't like this. That's okay. Some customers are going to love it. Other customers are going to really enjoy the super soft feel, enhanced super soft feel that you get out of this. And remember, this was a single stroke out of a 157 thin thread. So I'm going to pull this off, run it through, and bring it back, and we'll try and take a closer look at the ink surface. All right, so we put this over one of our lighting tools here that we have for the video. So you can see, just like holding it up to light to see if we got a full bridge of the garment. Looks like there's just a couple little, pinpoint spots that I didn't get a full bridge on. But overall, that's not a big deal. It's not perfect. I don't know. All right, it's not perfect. But with a single pass, with the smoothing screen on, this is actually very soft and very supple. It behaves very nicely underneath on the fingers and on the hands, and it drapes for a Plastisol. This is going to drape extremely well. That'll do it for today's screen printers. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on any of our social media channels. We also have a chat feature on our screenprinting.com website where you can chat with our success reps. For future video releases, hit the subscribe button below to be notified, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.